Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Ravitava Programming. So in this session, I'm going to discuss about the multi-threading uh, in Java programming. But before that, I wanted to discuss like what is the use of multitasking. So there are two different things: multi-threading, multitasking, right? So before this multi-threading, there was a multitasking concept that operating system mostly used to use. So what happens is like, for example, in any case, like you will have a computer system, and in computer system there are three major part, or you could say the four major part. One is definitely the board that you are going to run. So in a laptop case, it will be like a system on chip. So this, for example, if this is a board, the board which contains the complete circuit system, and let's say this is the processor. This is the processor, or you could say the CPU. And if this is the RAM, this is RAM, and this is hard disk, which is the secondary memory. This is the primary memory, and this is the secondary memory, which is the hard disk. So all this, your operating system will be there inside the hard disk, but when you boot up, it will come into the RAM, and processor will definitely execute all the processes. So what will happen is, for example, in this case, I'm running this Docker, I'm running this uh, Paint, I'm running this Task Manager, I'm running this browser, and if I'm running this Explorer, the I'm opening any folder. These are the multiple processes that are running parallelly, right? So before having your multiple cores in the processor, because earlier days, if you will we will talk about the earlier days, like the Pentium 1, Pentium 2, at that time there used to be only one logical processor. Remember that there used to be only one logical processor. So what it means, having one logical processor means, for example, if I will open this Windows and Performance, if you see, there are cores, there are different things, but in CPU there is core, right? So if you see, there are 8 cores. That means we could have 16 logical processor. In a nutshell, that means we could create 16 threads. But earlier, when there was no concept of like multiple cores, there used to be only one core, one single CPU, with ALU. So in that case, what operating system do is like they used to use the time slicing. So if you will ever read the operating system concept, so time slicing is the concept where this particular processor will divide its time for the different processes, during when that application is running. So that means, uh, so for example, this browser will take some milliseconds, this Docker will take some milliseconds, this Paint will take some time, this will take some time, this will take some time, and you will not feel that it is dividing its time to all these processes at the same time in a parallel way. The reason behind is that this particular RAM always comes in a frequency of hertz, that is the megahertz. So usually you will see that the RAM is running on 1300 megahertz, or maybe the 1600. I mean, I'm just giving the examples. So megahertz. So 1 megahertz means 1 million cycles per second. But the processor, if you see anytime, the configuration, the processor always comes in a gigahertz, right? So 1 gigahertz is equal to 1 billion cycles per second, right? So processor actually always run on a very fast speed than the RAM and also the hard disk. So in this case hard disk will be always slower, so we put all the the static files which are not currently running or maybe not currently useful into the hard disk, and whatever the program is currently running that we will put into the RAM, and the processor which execute each instructions as per the need. So that's why if you go to buy any laptop or desktop or any computer, you will see that processor will cost you always 10 times or maybe more than 10 times the RAM, and RAM will be all costlier than the hard disk. So hard disk is one of the cheapest part in the any computer. So now this is how this times like slicing used to happen earlier. Now it's, I mean, even nowadays it is happening, but because nowadays we have a processor with a very high capability. That means, I mean, we have multiple cores. i3 means then there will be 3 cores, i5 means there will be 5 cores, something like that, right? Not exactly, but yeah, for the assumption you could say that something like that. So these are the the processor with the high end cores. That means it could have multiple CPU unit within a particular CPU, or you could say the logical processors, right, with the ALU. So for example, this has 8 cores. That means my machine has like the 8 different CPU, 8 different CPU, something like this. So if you will compare Pentium 1 P1, which used to have only 1 core, right? Now I have 8 core. That means my machine is 8 times faster than that and that machine. So, but because all these small running these applications can be done maybe in two cores. So I'm not utilizing all these 6 cores at all. Why? Because I'm the kind of application I'm running that don't need all these 6 cores. So what happens is, like, for example, if you go to the any server, in server you are not going to run all these applications. So in servers you are just you will be running your backend application. That means you are not, if you are not using the proper application, that means you are not going to utilize your hardware in a complete way. So because these are very costly hardware system, so if you are not utilizing it, and if you are not churning out the complete processing capacity of the particular uh, uh, machine, that means you are not you know it is not cost effective, right? And the companies who are putting a lot of money into it, they are not getting the complete return on investment in a simple way. So what Java give you, the that you could create the threads. So in case of threads, the threads are the very lightweight processes. These are individual processes. So what you can do is, like, so if you are going to perform the 4 different kind of operation like insert, update, delete, and the select into the database. So what I could do is, like, instead of having only one application and one thread, uh, or you could simply say that one class for performing the same task, and I could create 4 different methods. Like for the insert there will be method, for delete there will be another method, for select there will be another method, and update for different another method in the same class. What I could do is, like, I could create 4 different classes. Each class will have separate method for insert, for delete, for update, and for select. And for those classes I could run individually as one single thread. That means there will be 4 thread. In that way, what I could do is, like, if there will be any load on the machine, for example, if I'm in earlier case, with one single class and 4 different methods within that class, if I was able to run maybe 10,000 transactions per second, in this case I could run 40,000 transactions per second. It's a roughly idea. That is what the threads gives you the capability. Also, because I'm creating the 4 different threads, that means I'm utilizing all these cores at the same time. So in this case, if you see, I'm almost utilizing the 80% of capacity of my machine or my processor. So this is more, a better way of utilizing your hardware resources, as well as you are getting the best performance, by creating the thread. So there are different ways of creating the threads, like by using the runnable interface and the thread class. So next session I'm going to discuss that. But before that, I just wanted to give you idea that how these thread works, how your operating system works. So how the time slicing is different from the threading. So threading or the multi-threading or the thread are the lightweight processes which runs individually, and it because it depends upon the processor and its capabilities. So you could actually utilize your processor which runs on a very high frequency in a best manner. And because you are creating a thread and directly you are interacting with the your processor, definitely your process is going to be very fast. So earlier, for example, for the insert update delete, if I'm going to use only one core at the same time, that means this core is actually slicing its time. Let's say there are 4 processors, that means it is going to divide its time into 4 parts, right, for those 4 different processes, right? So now by using the thread, I am utilizing these cores which were idle earlier, right? So this way I'm utilizing the hardware, also I'm getting the best performance from the machine. This is the end of this topic. For more videos like this, please like, share, comment and subscribe my channel. I will see you in the next video with another interesting topic. Thank you for watching my videos.